Welcome to another edition of Bedlam Buds. I am your Boomer Sooner, Oklahoma Sooners fan, Ryan, and it's my buddy Jeremy.
Go Pokes.
It was the best of times and the not the best of times. The best of times for the Oklahoma Sooners, and it was a good run for the Cowboys against Kansas State. And we'll talk about OSU's 14-6 loss in a second. But let's talk about the game that's got the Oklahoma Sooners buzzing, a 23-21 win over Alabama in Tuscaloosa. What, Jeremy, as an impartial outsider, what were your thoughts of the Sooners win over Alabama?
Well, I thought it was impressive, and not impressive as in they won by 50 points or they just dominated the game. They did what they had to win the game. They found a way to win that game, including, special teams, that field goal that was partially blocked. That ended up being the difference in the game. Win by 2, that's 3 points right there, right before halftime. So I thought I was very impressed, and of course, I nailed my prediction. I was very impressed by, again, OU found a way to win. It wasn't the prettiest game. It wasn't the smoothest game, but they did what they had to. And again, those type of individual effort plays are what sets those who make the playoffs apart from those who don't. Oklahoma State is a great example of that. We were 2 or 3 plays away from beating K-State, couldn't do it. OU found a way to make those plays. And again, just right off the top of my head, the first and to me the most impressive play of the whole day was that blocked field goal. Just the individual effort to not foul. You can't touch the center. He jumped right over him, just got enough of the ball to send it spiraling sideways. I mean, killed the half, killed the momentum that Bama had, and then OU came out and did what they needed to in the second half. We thought that OU had a shot to win. I thought that if they did win, it was going to be a prettier game than that. But congratulations, they found a way to get it done, and ultimately, that's all that matters.
It was super gritty, and Taylor Wine really stepped in for R. Mason Thomas so well. He had a number of impactful plays. He's going to play in the NFL. He's fantastic. At times, I don't want to say that he's better than R. Mason Thomas, but they might be equals. They're very, 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 very good. Like all the V's. Very, 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 very. It's not pretty good. It is very, 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 very good. And that was a huge play. It was gritty. The win was a lot like the win over Tennessee. I will tell you, I am a Boomer Sooner. I'm an Oklahoma fan. I like Brent Venables. I've long said that the NIL era is going to be led by good men, good leaders, because he's not picking the players anymore. That's Jim Nagy. And I've questioned a lot what he's done in terms of having control of the room at a coach level, being more involved, being as involved in offense and other aspects of the game as he is on defense. Because if he could touch offense, special teams, all of it, and have the positive effect that he clearly has on defense, as engaged as he is, then this would be an all-around complimentary, just wonderful football team. But I will tell you, Jeremy, this is the second game in a row that Oklahoma has won with defense only. And I love that. I texted my brother over the weekend. I said, our best offense is our defense. Oklahoma has finally started getting takeaways. Eli Bowen with the 87-yard interception return. Robert Spears-Jennings almost had an interception return in the end zone that might have gone 103 yards. But that was called back for a penalty. So Oklahoma's doing what they need to do in that regard, but here's the fool's gold part of this. Their offense only managed 212 yards. It was not good again. It just wasn't. John Mateer was good. He was a gamer. He displayed a lot of the grit, but Xavier Robinson got hurt. And largely, Alabama was able to contain OU. Mateer was a gamer. There were a couple of times where he found Giovanni Gibson, Jermichael Carter, I believe, and of course Isaiah Satania III. I like to say, Jeremy, that there is good Satania, bad Satania. And we saw that Satania running that first punt and getting Oklahoma in very, very good field position, and then he fumbled the ball later on. And that ball ended up going out, or the Sooners got it back. But all in all, Mateer was the guy who captained that ship, and he did what he needed to do today, or today on Saturday to get the Sooners a win. But I will tell you, I say it's fool's gold because Missouri is going to give 100% effort, and so is LSU. Those are not easy opponents coming up, and I don't know. You and I talked last week and have talked in multiple episodes about matchups. A lot of winning and losing is about individual matchups. I don't know that Oklahoma matches up nearly as well against Missouri and LSU as they do against Alabama. Alabama could be a better team, but Missouri, by the way, I'll also say this, and people will think I'm down. I'm not down on Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma has a chance to run. If their defense played the way they did against Alabama, they can beat anybody. But I will also tell you this, I feel like Oklahoma plays better on the road than they do at home for whatever reason. I
Well,
don't
I think you've seen that.
Yeah,
I mean, you go to Tennessee and to Alabama to get wins, but you lose to what, Ole Miss?
right, and you lose to Ole Miss. And now the thing is Ole Miss really, really good offense, but it's not just this year. I've seen in other years, like
Mm.
we played Tennessee at home last year. Not, it just kinda laid an egg. But if they put together that defensive effort against Missouri and LSU, this Sooners team is in position to go to the playoff, and not only go to the playoff, but to get a home game. And you know who the Sooners might play in that home game? The greatest team in the history of college football.
Oh, you're
Three
kidding me.
two
Notre Dame,
the 2025 Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
eh, quite possibly the greatest team I have ever laid eyes on.
It
I
would
mean,
be impossible, as Ralph Wiggum would say, to beat them.
impossible. That's right.
Impossible.
Okay, now let me throw something out at you though. You're right that the offense was not clicking, we will say, to put it politely. However, OU found a way to win. It's a team game. You play both sides of the ball. It doesn't matter if long as you find a way to win. And again, OU did that. Now you're right, that very easily could come back to cost them if if a team gets 21, 24 points early against OU, then they're going to be in trouble to make up that deficit. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl ring. Trent Dilfer he was a leader on that team just because he was a quarterback when he played for the Ravens. But it was Ray Lewis
Right,
and those guys
right.
that won that Super Bowl. So if that quarterback can manage the game like Mateer can do, you get a terrific defense. That's a recipe to win a lot of games right there. Not win pretty,
Right.
not win by style points, but getting that dub, and that's all that matters.
Well, that Super Bowl that they won was a 34-7 win over the New York Giants, a game that the Giants weren't in at all. And
Right.
the problem with the OU defense, if it's a problem, is that they still do give up a lot of yards. They give up more than 400 yards to Alabama and 21 points. The thing is that Alabama does not have the best offense in the world. They find a way to get it done, but Brett Venables likes to talk a lot about uncommon effort yielding uncommon results. The number of turnovers and the number of points that they've scored on defense, the Sooners that is, the past couple of weeks, is uncommon. I, as a fan, do not reasonably expect that they'll do that every week. If they do that every week, there's going to be a parade in Norman. But really, can you count on that every week?
Well, I mean, here's the thing is that the way you have to look at it is you don't have to do it every week. You just have to do it this week.
I love
And
that.
then
I love that.
and then you just have to do it the next week.
Yeah.
It's one game at a time, it's one play at a time. And so as long as they can do that play by play, game by game, then yeah, they can. Now, is it statistically likely? No. Just because that's not how these things work. However, we both know we have watched sports long enough, right, to know that sometimes teams get on a roll, and when they do, they can accomplish, like you said, unusual things. Those I can't remember exactly how you said it about the uncommon effort.
Right.
You can get those uncommon results, and OU is rolling right now. But you're right, Missouri LSU are presenting formidable challenges, and can OU not get too high after beating Alabama on the road to forget to play these next couple of games?
Right. Right. Because the thing is the thing that I wouldn't want to see against Missouri is Missouri to get up 7-0 early or even 14 nothing early, and then for the defense to panic, or for not the defense to panic, but for the offense to panic, because
Well, what
you have to stay within
I'm
yourself.
well, that's what I'm saying, that if one of these 2 teams are in the playoff, if a team gets out, 2 or 3 scores, OU could be in trouble at that point because can their offense come back and will they panic? No, that's exactly right. But because of that defense, it's gonna be real hard for those other teams to jump out to that kinda lead.
Agree. And there are a lot of folks, a lot of fans, smug Sooner fans who are out there saying, put some respect on Venable's name. For those of you who are picking against OU, for those of you who thought that Venables might get fired at the end of this year, how dare you? And I'm like, I got news for you, folks, is that we all thought that a couple, 3 weeks ago, because we can watch the game, we can see. And just because you won these 2 games, there are Alabama fans who are saying the same about Kalen DeBoer and Tennessee fans saying the same about Josh Heupel. If for some reason the Sooners pull off a 34-14 loss to Missouri this week, we'll be back to the drawing board. Now, mind you, nobody's calling for Venable's head, nothing like that. We see what that defense can do, but let's not let's tap the brakes a little bit. 2 good wins. You still are gonna have to go 1-0 this week and 1-0 against LSU, and, the worst thing you can do is underestimate your opponent, ever.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Again, that's why you can't have or we talked earlier, you can't let one loss become 2 or 3. Oh, you prevented that, but you can't let one good win turn into a loss of
Mhm.
2 or 3. And so, absolutely, but again, that's why Venables makes the big bucks. That's why this coaching staff is so good and knows what they're doing, to get those guys ready. If OU doesn't look prepared next week, that's entirely different than if they lose to a team that happens to be playing better.
Right.
But again, I'm not predicting that. We'll do our predictions later.
Right, right,
Uh,
I would say when I do, my predictions, it's sort of been a shtick, a gimmick that I've been picking against, OU at least the past couple of weeks. In fact, I've had a number of folks on TikTok say, "Go pick against OU because they seem to win when you pick against
it,
them."
it works.
But the thing is that I'm not going to pick against them now. It's just at this point, I've seen what I needed to see in terms of grit. Before we get to OSU, one of the things that I really love seeing, and I am a big believer in chemistry, especially in sports. And or better living through chemistry in other ways, but I would just in terms of sports, uh, one of the things that I saw that I really, really loved was DeMarco Murray dapping up Ben Arbuckle and all of those guys on offense just celebrating together as a unit. I know that these guys celebrate with their players and they let the players celebrate themselves, but I think it's important for me as a fan to see that this coaching staff is on the same page. Too many times in sports organizations, and it happens in the NFL a lot more than it does in other places, but you see the position coaches, the bench coaches, the folks who aren't the head coach. I mean, they just sort of live in their own bubble, their own silo. This happens in business all the time. You'll have marketing's not working with editorial or whatnot. It felt like they were all celebrating together and that they're on the same page. I think that is dangerous, for the rest of the world to see.
Well, last as an example of that, but in the opposite way, is that if the things that you've heard about last year's Oklahoma State coaching staff are true, they were the exact opposite. They stayed within themselves. They didn't celebrate together or come together. And as the season got progressively worse, last year, that it just snowballed and that just magnified. Right? You can get lost in your own echo chamber, and that happens a lot. And so I'm with you. When you see them celebrating together, when you see them coming together and doing those kind of things, it's nothing bad can come out of that. Now, it's not to guarantee that everything is hunky dory, but I guarantee you things are better. And I absolutely, as a fan, I love to see that kind of stuff too, because everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction.
Absolutely. Everybody's on the same team. And when I see coaches who are in that echo chamber, I see coaches that are potentially sabotaging the head coach, and I don't like that at all. Now, let's talk about OSU. OSU, good effort. It didn't work out. just looking at the stat sheet and what I saw of the game, and I had it up among I've got the YouTube TV with the 4 games, and I'm watching. It felt like, OSU was just a play away, or should I say they were a turnover or 2 away. 5 turnovers on the day.
Well, and how many of those came inside of K-State's territory? At least 3. Okay, at least 3 of those did, and each one was a drive killer. Oklahoma State had a lot of yards. They got to move the ball up and down the field. They did some really good things. Had a missed field goal, the multiple turnovers. Think about that. Any other year, you have 5 turnovers to a team like K-State, you're going to lose by 30 points. K-State takes advantage of those, and we lost 14-6, and both their touchdowns were one of those where, it's like, did that play really happen? Kind of sleepwalking. It didn't even feel like a real play, and the next thing they're in the end zone. They were both from distance. Outside of that, Oklahoma State held them. Now, this past week, I don't know any details or anything, but I heard that some of the players had a little come to Jesus, and the players got together themselves and had some conversations with other players and said, look, yeah, this season ain't going how anybody wants, but we're still proud of being Cowboys. And if you're not, jog on down the road,
Right.
jog on down.
Love it.
And that some of the seniors, some of the Oklahoma kids, and some of the leaders took that team aside and said, again, no coaches or anything. And so I don't know everything that, again, all rumor, and had a little come to Jesus with each other and said, listen, we're going to play for each other. And if we don't win, we're still playing for each other. We're going to play for our logo because we're proud of it. And you could see that effort. That was not the same team. That team maybe could win one of the earlier games the way they put out that effort. And it's just, again, one of those things where when it rains, it pours, and Oklahoma State has found a different way to lose every week. It's been 2 or 3 plays. It's been, in this one, it was 2 or 3 turnovers. You maybe take one of those turnovers away, and if Oklahoma State scores a touchdown, gets a 2-point conversion, we're knotted up, and you never know what happens, right? So, and what did I say? This team won't quit. And when those guys came together, everybody that's left out there wants to be there, wants to be a Cowboy, wants to try and put out. And honestly, right now, it's a sad state of affairs, but that's all we can ask for. The season is lost. The season is burn it all down. It's a dumpster. But now we're going to see who really wants to be a Cowboy. And again, these guys are playing for their next paycheck, their next school, or for Oklahoma State, next year, showing that they do want to be here. But they played to the end again. They played to the final whistle. They tried. There was a couple times, we gave up. Well, honestly, one of their touchdowns, we had 12 guys on the field. Man, maybe both of their touchdowns, honestly. I'm like, how can you have extra guys and still give up a touchdown in that case? Right?
Feel like it didn't help.
Right. I mean, they were doing better when they only had 11 guys on the field, They were stopping them. So, again, I'm trying to look at all the positives. Flores has gotten better. Fields, the running back, has gotten better. The receivers are catching the ball more consistently. We have a receiver, Rigby, who's really shown up. And I tell people on the sidelines, if he has a daughter, he needs to name her Eleanor. So it's
Yes.
Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah.
And all the young kids around me have no clue what I'm talking about. It's a Beatles song.
Mhm.
Eleanor Rigby is a Beatles song, right?
Yeah.
And he caught some really good passes. And so they're putting it together. It's just we have found a different way to lose every week. This week it was turnovers. And so, I mean, I can't predict a win for Oklahoma State, either of the last 2 games, but gosh, I don't know. It'd be silly of me to, honestly, the way things have gone. But we predicted a couple of to cover the spread. They've done that. Kansas State. And again, that's an improvement. That's a sign of at least positivity of we're not just getting smoked like what was happening at the beginning of the year. We have fewer players. We have less numbers overall. We have less positions, but these guys are putting out effort. And as an alum, as a proud fan, that's all we can ask. And I'm proud of these guys for, it would be easy to pack up and go home and just be
But
done. And so, It's not what we wanted, but again, you gotta look at the positives. You gotta look at how things are working out, and if Oklahoma State can put 2 or 3 plays together that have gone against them in these last 2 games, who knows?
Right. You got UCF, Oklahoma State in the happiest place on earth, Orlando, Florida. What if they'll go
And what
to
the
Disney World?
I hope not. The last time we went down there, they absolutely dog stomped us. Oh my goodness. Oh, it was bad.
And then
Oh,
you got Iowa State at home. Next week's a 3 o'clock game, and then Iowa State in Stillwater at 11 a.m. So hopefully
uh,
the Cowboys win one of those.
well, I'm just glad that they're getting the season over with early on that Saturday.
Right.
Let-
Right.
Let's get her done so we can watch the rest of the games.
Right.
But again, Iowa State's not had the type of year that they want, and
Right.
so maybe they'll be done. Maybe they,
No. Yeah, Matt
you know,
Campbell's flame is not flickering nearly as bright. I don't know if you heard today, but there is breaking news in the coaching world. James Franklin is taking the Virginia Tech job. Um,
we predicted that. We
right. Oh,
called
wait,
that.
you bet. Yeah, a lot of people did, but
Uh,
that makes sense for him.
yeah,
It,
yeah. It's good for
it's
Virginia Tech too.
You bet. It's a mid-tier team with great tradition, underrated tradition, and good for him because they're gonna be good. He was great at Vanderbilt. He was very good at Penn State. I get that the Nittany Lions think that they're the caliber of Notre Dame, but they're not. I mean, Notre Dame is the greatest program of all time. Penn State,
Clearly.
be second. You can only be second.
Well, but there's nothing wrong with that because every now and then Notre Dame is nice enough to let other people win.
Right.
And so, you gotta appreciate that. And unfortunately, being on the East Coast, there's that Big Ten, those schools, because Ohio State's had so much success, Michigan's had so much success over the past couple of years that it put a lot of pressure on Franklin. And unfortunately, is in this time and place of college athletics, schools are not messing around in the NIL
They
world.
are not messing around, and by the way, I don't blame them, and even though I can be cynical about higher education because it's a giant business and that's really all it is, I we can make an argument whether or not paying $60,000 for a college education is worth it at all. With that said I teach a class at OU. I
I
mean,
was gonna say I'm a former professor, and I'm
right,
I'm just gonna sit here and smile.
but there is that conversation that happens nowadays. It's a lot of money, but football is even bigger business. It's even bigger business, and they're just not messing around. With that said, you look at Eric Morris and the North Texas Eagles down there in Denton. They are in the top 25 for the first time since 10 years before you were born and 11 years before I was born, since 1959. The North Texas Mean Green are at number 22. If there is any doubt left that OSU should not roll out the Brinks truck to get this guy, let it be done. I think he's the guy.
Okay, so I don't know um, anything. I'll let me just say that for people watching, but there are serious rumors that, and I don't know who it is, but there are serious rumors and signs that the coaching search is over.
Okay. I mean, can you say anything about what those signs are?
Uh, I can't. Other than just some of the conversations, even some of the other media people are putting kind of some of these things out that now it's not like over. There's no contract sign, but a rumor that I heard was that there is basically an agreement in place. And again, I have this is wasn't coming from anybody, but just starting to put some of these things together and starting to look at some of the things that are happening. I kind of wonder. So apparently, somebody called in on a radio show up here in Stillwater like 2 weeks ago and said that they had heard it was already done back then. Um, and I don't know anything about that, but again, just some of the vibes maybe that I'm kind of picking up here.
Oh, well,
Some of the
let's roll with it. Let's say it is over. Let's say it ended early. Then what does that tell us? Does that mean it's Zach Robinson?
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. You could still have a college coach out there that is um, that is still coaching, still head coaching, and but has the agreement in place. Again, no contract signed because then that can become public. But just that handshake deal of okay, as soon as this season is over, regular season or whatever, we're moving up to Stillwater. Um, I don't know now. I did hear another new name, and I just blanked out, but it's the Alabama defensive coordinator. Um, who's again, gosh, I just absolutely, I'm
I
sorry.
forgive me, I'm super underwhelmed by that.
Well, again, there has been several of the names that I've been super underwhelmed by. Um, and so, if you look at what Chad Weiberg, the athletic director of Oklahoma State, if you look at what he said at the very beginning, he said he wanted an experienced head coach. Well, the Alabama defensive coordinator has been a head coach. He was actually the head coach at South Alabama. And South Alabama, when he was the head coach 2 years ago,
Beat
came up
OSU
to Oklahoma
35 to
State
7.
and beat the absolute dog crap out of Oklahoma State. And
Yeah.
that year, Oklahoma State went to the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah. I remember listening to that game. I mean, I've told you before, I love listening to, Hunziker and John Holcomb and, Robert. I listened to that game as I was mowing the yard, and I was like, "Oh my god." I was sort of hate listening. As a Sooner fan, I was like, "What is going on here? The Cowboys, am I supposed to cheer? This is a disaster."
Oh, let me tell you, standing on the sideline, it was worse. It was worse. And matter of fact, one time I was on the South Alabama sideline taking pictures, and one of our students yelled something down to the bench, and their head coach, who's again, who's now the defense coordinator at Alabama, he turned around and yelled back at the student. He yelled, "Keep giving us your suggestions. We're kicking your ass. We'll take them all."
Yes. And by the way, the most patriotic team in the country, USA. USA. University of South Alabama.
And and aren't they red, white, and blue?
They are red, white, and blue. By the way, I love Southern Alabama, Gulf Shores. We've been there several times. Alabama is a super underrated state. I Alabama has the ego of Texas, and in many ways is prettier. So Texas, Lone Star, Alabama, Dixie. All right. So, but Alabama's gorgeous. Southern Alabama is a different place than Central Alabama is a different place than Northern Alabama. But Southern Alabama, it's Jimmy Buffett paradise. It's
Mhm.
wonderful, and why more people, USA, South Alabama, if it weren't for Alabama and Auburn, could probably be more of a power player in there, simply because it's so cool to live in Mobile.
Well, and also, now again in the NIL portal, if I were South Alabama, I'd be recruiting kids that couldn't get in to Alabama and Auburn, and I would say, "Come here to school for a couple years, and then if you're good enough for us, skip on down the road to one of
Right,
the big
right.
schools."
You'll be an in-stater, yeah. I mean,
Right.
with NIL, they'll just pay you, so,
Well,
you know,
right.
so
Yeah, but so that again, it's a name that I've heard, even though I cannot remember the name for the life of me right now. That is also in the mix, but he's been a head coach. See, Zach Robinson still doesn't have the head coaching experience. He doesn't have the college coaching experience. I honestly would be very surprised if it is Zach Robinson, simply because of those factors. Now, if he came in for an interview and if he just blew them out of the water, if he has a plan, if he has coaches in place ready to go, that would track with with the vibes that the search is basically over. Now, if the Saban calls you and goes, "Hey, I think I want to coach for another couple of years," clearly you take another interview. But that's not going to happen. He's enjoying his TV job way, way too much. A whole bunch less pressure, probably same amount of money. Um, but that's the Robinson thing timeline fits, but the criteria doesn't fit if they are maintaining that you have to have head coaching experience. So in that case, you'd put Golish, Morris, and then the Alabama guy, if that is indeed the case.
it'll be very interesting to see, and we ought to just make a pledge that as soon as that's named, we pop on and do a podcast right then with instant reaction. Before we get out of here, let's talk about something else big that happened this weekend. The Oklahoma State wrestling team got third
Mhm.
place in national duels. Now, as a guy who knows nothing about wrestling, is that a good result? I saw the headline that says it was a resilient performance by the Cowboys. What can you tell me about the performance and how they did?
We were seated 4th and finished 3rd. So, that's a notch up. Plus, there were 4 duels that we wrestled, 4 total meets that we wrestled. In 3 of those meets, we wrestled 6 freshmen. 4 of them were true freshmen, and they won. Our freshmen brought it this weekend, and so I thought it was a really good result. We lost to Iowa, and it was 1 or 2 matches, very close, could have gone either way, but the future for Oklahoma State wrestling is ridiculously bright because our freshmen, true freshmen, one of them, D. Lockett from Stillwater, Oklahoma, born and raised in Stillwater, he beat the number 2 rated kid multi-time All-American for Iowa. Just huge upset after upset. Again, I've said it all year. This team is young. They're going to take some bumps, but that response to losing to Iowa, they came back and just destroyed Nebraska. And I don't care what sport it in; it's always good to destroy Nebraska. And like 30-6, I think was the final score. We just smoked them. And so it was a good result for a very young team. Clearly, you want to win them all, but that's not going to happen in any sport over the course of several years. But I mean, as a even just a state of Oklahoma wrestling fan, you got to really like because it's local kids that are out there doing that as well. Our Troy Spratley's from Oklahoma. He's our 125. D's from Oklahoma. Connor Doucette's from Oklahoma. So we got a lot of Oklahoma kids on that roster, and you got to like that. But overall, no, I thought it was a great event. A good response. Plus, we've lost just enough to give everybody something to work on. Nobody can sit back and rest on their laurels and go, "Well, I beat the number 2 kid." Everybody made mistakes. Everybody can improve, and I think we're going to see that. It was a good event.
Fantastic. Anything in the basketball world? I know that the Sooner men lost to Nebraska 105-99, and it's sort of it's always good to beat Nebraska, never good to lose to Nebraska, although this Nebraska team under Fred Hoiberg, the mayor, a lot better. I think it's a better program than what it's been in other recent years. Although with the Sooners being at 2-2, and knowing how Porter Moser's teams fade as the season goes along, I don't know, man. It's, I'm not highly encouraged at 2-2, but I also haven't watched a ton, so
Well, the Oklahoma State basketball team is showing signs of life. They're winning when they should win. We played Prairie View A&M the other day, and it was a little close at the beginning, and then stretched it out. Those type of wins, and so they're putting some things together that as a basketball fan, Oklahoma State basketball fan, you like to see. They're playing hard. They're playing well. They're playing well as a team. And they're finally winning games they're supposed to win. And it was several years under Coach Boynton, who is a terrific human being, absolutely love the man, but Oklahoma State basketball would lose 2 or 3 games a year in the preseason when you're not supposed to be, when you're playing the A&M Prairie View
you're supposed
A&Ms
to rack up
and
the wins to get close to 20.
right. Eastern Coastal Carolina State,
Mm.
exactly. And so, but this team is finding a way to win those games. And so you gotta like the signs of life. We brought in some big Europeans, those 7-footers that'll shoot a three,
I
from 30 feet. Maybe not quite that tall, but we brought in a couple of guys like that, and they're playing really well as a unit, and that's what I like to see. Um, but again, all things are optimistic within reason. Right now, the expectation is make the NCAA tournament. If we can just get in the field this year, because it's been a couple of years. The last time Oklahoma State was in the field was when we had the number 1 player in the nation, Cade Cunningham.
I
And then before that, it was another 5 or 6 years. So if this team can just get back to the tournament, then that will be a huge step forward. And Coach Lutz is starting to get his players in. He has had time to recruit. Now he's building relationships, signed, a top freshman class in the nation, top 5 or 10, I think it was, signed a top kid out of Oklahoma and, those. So there's a lot of positivity right now with Oklahoma State basketball, tempered considering, you got to temper those expectations. We're not winning the national title this year, but
Right.
taking those steps.
In college basketball, get to the tourney and then anything can happen. You just never know. So where can people listen to you this week? You're on the radio often.
Yeah, I actually, I just got off a call with the radio to talk wrestling. But tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning, on Triple Play Sports out of Stillwater, I'll be on from 7:30 to 9. And then Thursday afternoons, again on Triple Play Sports Radio, I'm on 3 to 5. This week, we might move that around a little bit because of the wrestling team travel. But it's usually Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons on Triple Play Sports out of Stillwater. You can look it up and listen online to check us out. But of course, everybody needs to come and check out Bedlam Buds. This is the podcast. If you want your OU OSU information, this is the place to come right here.
Right on. And that's going to be on YouTube, on TikTok, on various places, and wherever you get your podcasts. Just look for Bedlam Buds. You're not going to find anything else by that name. I started to make up something like, I'll be appearing at Laughs Comedy Store telling jokes from 9 to 11. I'm not doing it. I'll be live from my office right here. So just you pop on. I'll talk sports with anybody.
Well, you'll be live from your class. You'll be teaching your class right there.
That's all online. It's
Okay,
it is asynchronous. It's a class. And by the way, I should note that class is really well worth it because I help those students get actual channels put together. And whenever a student gets a LinkedIn page put together, all of a sudden they get internship opportunities because these companies, whether it's American Fidelity, Paycom, Loves, they take their internship programs very seriously. News 9 in the media, KOCO, they compete for interns. They want interns, but you have to get seen, and LinkedIn is a place to do that. So even if they don't learn anything else, oftentimes I'll get a thank you at the end of the class where they'll say, "Thank you for forcing me to create a LinkedIn page."
Value. That's value for their knowledge. Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. No, 100%.
All right, so we will be back later in the week to make our world famous predictions. I haven't checked to see how we went. I'll go through it. I actually think we had a pretty good week overall, and we'll be back. Just leave a comment if you completely disagreed with this. If you like something that we said, give us some proof of life that you were actually listening. So many times, Jeremy, I'll listen to I'll read the comments of what we post in short form to TikTok, and I'm like, did you actually watch the video? Because that's not what we said at all. But that's okay.
Right.
It's like any comment's a good comment. So for Jeremy,
Go Pokes.
and for myself, Boomer Sooner, this is Bedlam Buds. We will talk to you next time.